What's going on, Snaps family? Aaron Murray here, and no, T-Bob did not get the F-boy haircut next to me. That is the film guy. The T-Bob Brooks Austin joining us right now, a fan of the show, friend of the show. T-Bob was supposed to kind of get the nice fade, Brooks, before or after a bet was essentially lost. He's refusing to pay that debt till after a wedding in May.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an ongoing running joke that he needs to essentially pay his damn debts. You know, he promised he would get it cut once we got to a certain number of subscribers. We hit that number. The haircut was not done. So this is what T-Bob would look like if he shaved his beard and got the F-boy haircut. Right there, the film guy, a.k.a. the clean-shaven, nice haircut T-Bob.
Why the F-boy? Like what?
Because he calls mine the fuckboy haircut. When I get the fade, he calls it the
that
fuckboy
checks
fade.
out. That checks out with him.
That's why.
The world was introduced to the Travis Kelce fade during Super Bowl week, which was a whole nother gambit of a discussion of all kind of different stuff. But yeah, man, I've been getting the high and tight fade, as my grandfather called it, the high top. I've been getting the high top since like third grade. So I grew it out once in college, but we've been high and tight with the fade because I can't do the facial hair. So yeah, if I don't square off the top of my head, I just look like a big circle already because I'm naturally, chubby and cylindrical from the cheeks down. So we really got to square up the top. It's a whole method, man.
It is. You got to match it. I think
you got to try.
I do think T would look good with the beard and the high and tight fade. I think he would look great. I know his wife and him are a little bit nervous before the Easter pictures and before the wedding, but come this summer before SEC Media Days, T will be rocking that. Obviously, T-Bob is not with us here today. He is at Mardi Gras enjoying himself. So do pray for his liver, his sanity, and anything that else that may get destroyed while he's in New Orleans. And also fingers crossed that he will be back with us come our live show on Thursday. Once again, as we always start the show, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Hit that thumbs up button. Go follow us on our new social channels at the Volume Snap, on Instagram and TikTok. We just launched those last week, so appreciate everyone who has gone out there and given those a follow as we continue to grow here on the Snaps YouTube channel. We got Brooks with us, so we're going to dive a lot into Georgia. We're going to dive a lot into the SEC, have a little bit of a discussion about Deion and what he's building in Colorado for year 2, but you're the guy when it comes to Georgia football. And I know you love to tell me you know everything. I know you know everything, but we're going to start with your bread and butter. You start with your bread and butter. Georgia, how are you feeling about just everything right now? Because it was a weird feeling about a month ago, a little over a month ago. We were both down there in Miami, and a lot of pissed off Georgia fans thinking that they should be in the playoffs, and expectations are championship. Has any of the momentum been lost from the back-to-back national champs, or is it still the same hungry Georgia fans that we saw 2-3 years ago?
Oh, you speaking from a fan base perspective.
Yeah.
I think there has been a cooling off. There's been like, okay, we won those 2. But now the way in which a 3-point loss kept you from a three-peat, that right there, I think kind of reinvigorated the fan base back into like, no, hey, we need to get back to our elite standards now. But Aaron, it was weird. I don't think there was any drop off. Like in terms of, hey, the fans showed up at the home games. The home slate this year was really, it wasn't great. Like the only 2 really good games were Kentucky and Ole Miss. Like that was really it. And Missouri. You got Missouri at home. That was your 3-headed monster of a quote-unquote home game slate. So it wasn't like game day was in town, even though they did come into town that one time, and it rained all day long. So I don't think there was any drop-off from a vibe. Like hey, they're not as hungry. I didn't necessarily feel that. I'm a big metrics guy. The numbers on any of my platforms didn't say that either. Like we feel the offseason drop off. I mean, look at it. Yeah. We can kind of see it. You feel that. That's been per the standard that we normally see in February. It just happened a little bit earlier this year because Georgia's season didn't end January 10th. It ended December 4th, within reality after the selection committee.
Yeah, no, T always says that Georgia fans are now the new Alabama fans, where they take it for granted. They're not appreciative of what they're witnessing on the football field, the play, the coaching, all that. And I don't know I disagree. Like, I think that there is a sense of like I would say it's more confidence. They walk into the stadium believing that they're the biggest, baddest dude. Doesn't mean that they're complacent or they don't really care, or that they like this wine and cheese kind of fan base that kind of sipping back with their pinkies in the air, just hanging out here for the good time. Like, there is that still, to me, energy, excitement. And I think a little bit has to do with obviously Georgia and what they are and what Kirby's built. But I also think the fact that college football is changing with the playoffs, with the new conference, with Texas and Oklahoma joining. Like, man, the amount of times that I've talked to players through like the TPL stuff that just say, dude, we are so freaking pumped to go to Austin, to go to Tuscaloosa, to go to Oxford. So, like, I think if you're a Georgia fan or this is really all fans, and you look at like this new college football, I don't care if you're a below 500 team, a 500 team, a championship contending team. College football next year is going to be freaking for everyone, because every single weekend there's going to be so many damn good matchups.
That's true, and I think the removal of divisions has created this. We went through it last night. I mean, Georgia has 5 preseason top 25 football teams on the schedule going into the season. It's a neutral site against Clemson. Texas is a top 5 team. Bama's a top 8, top 10 team. Tennessee's top 15. Ole Miss will be a top 5 preseason ranked football team. The schedule looks like it does now, I think in large part because there's no more divisions. But I think looking back on it now, like especially from 16 to 2023, right? I mean, Georgia hasn't had any of these murderers row in terms of schedules, because the SEC East really got decimated. Like, Florida's down, South Carolina's down, Tennessee has now kind of come back to a 10-win program, it seems like. But prior to Georgia's kind of supremacy, you're very familiar with this. There used to be multiple seasons where, since 2005, Georgia has had these top 25, 5 of them on the preseason rankings, 5 times, 2005, 2008, 13, 14, and 16. Georgia had these quote unquote murder row schedules. Well, they disappeared because Georgia became the standard in the East. Now we no longer have the East. We merged the divisions, and now, boom, all of a sudden the schedule looks like murderer's row. So I think that's a large part of what really has happened to the schedules here. But I think back to the fan discussion and the temperament of the fan base, I think a good litmus test for this has always been spring games for me. Like, what does your spring game attendance look like? You look at Alabama spring games towards the end of Nick Saban's run, there's like 5,000 people in the stands. They can't even figure out, fill out the lower bowl. Last year, Georgia had some stadium renovations that closed off basically half of the stadium. I'll be very interested to see what the capacity looks like at the spring game this year. That, for me, is always like, there's 85,000 people at a game that's a scrimmage. It's a glorified practice. That fan base is still very active and hungry for their football team and football program. That's always been my litmus test.
Well, they just got to make sure it's not on Masters weekend. We did that a couple of times when I was in Georgia. Like, why are we scheduling a spring game on the same weekend as one of the greatest sporting events in the calendar year, which is the Masters in Augusta, about 2 hours outside of Athens? So hopefully, and I think Kirby's a golfer. He knows really well the golf calendar, not to schedule it around the Masters time or the same weekend as the Masters. All right. So, like, big news that I gave a lot of people some confidence heading into next year. Carson Beck back. What did you like? What did you not like from year one? And where do you kind of anticipate him making that next stride? Like, where's the biggest gap as you break down the film each and every week? Where's the biggest gap that you believe he needs to improve on to take his game to another level, to be a true Heisman contender, to be that potential number 1 pick in the NFL draft, to lead Georgia to a national championship? What are those areas of improvement?
Yeah, in terms of comfort and continuity, I don't know if Carson Beck will ever have this type of stability, like even the rest of his career. He's going to spend 5 years, right? Todd Monken came into this program in 2020. He's going to spend 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24 in the same system from a terminology standpoint, from a how we operate standpoint. I don't think he'll ever get that. Like, history of football tells us you're not even going to get that in the NFL ranks, no matter even where. Like, Andy Reid's changed coordinators 3 times in the last 4 seasons. This just doesn't happen. So from a continuity and a comfort standpoint,
but it's the same offense, though. It's
correct.
Andy Reid's offense.
It is Andy Reid's offense, but again, that's the example.
That's the exception. I'm with you.
The rest of the league is just not there. So, like, you're not going to have a growth from a comfort standpoint. He's not going to suddenly know the offense better than he ever has. Like, it's not going to see any growth there. The growth for me, and I think the growth for Carson is going to have to be from a confidence standpoint. Like, I want to see like what I saw in portions of your game against Kentucky where, like, yeah, that window is really tight, but I'm a guy. I'm 6'4", I'm 225 pounds. I'm as traitsy as anybody who's ever played it. I'm going to make that throw. I want to see him play on the verge of almost risk at times. Like, I felt through times in critical games. He didn't have a lot of them last year, right? But when games got tight and windows got tight, I felt a hesitancy in the confidence range and how he felt about his own skill set. I want to see a quarterback walk around like he drives a Lambo truck. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see Big Drake energy. I want to see, like, this dude knows he's a guy. He knows he's going to go out here and ball out. He knows he's a first-round caliber football player. That's where the growth is for me for Carson. Like, walk out and play football like you know you're good at this. You know you're great at this because he is.
Well, I wonder, too, from a pro perspective, too, like that's why scouts kind of shy away a little bit from guys that have just played 1 year because there is a talent. Like, you can find talented guys all over the place. The game, and we saw it with Patrick this week. T-Bob and I debated yesterday, like what makes Patrick now on the level of Tom Brady? It's from the shoulders up. It's that confidence, it's that swagger, it's that leadership. It's all those things that just don't always come overnight, that take time to develop. And sometimes it doesn't even happen most of the time in a single season. So you get a more veteran guy, a guy that's been through it, a guy that's been able to gain his confidence over a matter of 20 plus to 25, almost 30 games. Like, that's why you come back for another year. Because if it's straight based on talent, Carson is going to be one of the most talented quarterbacks in this year's draft. He's a top 3 or 4 talent quarterback. He would light up the combine. He would light up the pro day. It's all here, man. It's all up top if he gains that confidence next year. And to me, it's a mixture of confidence. It's also a mixture of risk-taking. And I think I've said this before in here, a couple things. One, because him and I have talked about this, he watched a lot of Aaron Rodgers tape in the offseason.
Yeah.
And he was always very quick to see a linebacker drop, boom, check down. See safeties get off the hash, boom, check. Like, where's my – get the ball out now, which is great. But at some point, you do have to kind of say, like, okay, I've seen it enough. I know if I've seen enough film, I know if I give my guy a tick more second that check down's there, but let me just give my guy a chance down the field real quick. And if it's not there, then I'll check it down. So I think it's a mixture of working on the timing with the foot, essentially with his footwork as well.
Yeah. And just, I think with the amount of reps and just playing more games, you start to understand the flow of each individual football game when your football team needs you to really push things. Like, we need to drive this car a lot faster right now. Like, we need to go. I think as you get older and you play more games at the position, like, you have a better feel for these types of deals when they're happening in front of you. Like, hey, our defense is having a bad day. We need to go. Or, hey, this is a 3rd and 12. I need to hold this football and make sure, hey, if I have to put the ball at risk, that's fine. We need to extend this possession right now because we need to score. Those types of things are things that you pick up more and you feel more comfortable and confident in those situations as you get older. That's just time.
Well, he also had a lot of confidence last year when healthy, and this was the biggest issue for Georgia last year, which may be a good thing heading into this year because you learn how to essentially not play with these guys. McConkey, Brock, both of them were in and out of the lineup last year. Rosemary Saint was a really good guy, had a nice touchdown in the Senior Bowl. He was, I would say, pretty darn consistent, at least the most consistent he's been in his career. But you're losing a lot of those playmakers. Who in your mind has to step up? Is it some of the guys in the portal? Is it guys that are already on the roster? Like, Georgia's had issues with elite receiver consistent play. For almost a decade now.
Look at the roster right now. Like, if you talk about who do they need to step up, who do they need to have like big seasons, or what pieces are made available to them, like, you immediately go to the transfer additions, right? It's like off rip, hey, Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett need to have better seasons, and they need to show growth from year 1 at Georgia to year 2 at Georgia. Those are both transfers. Hey, what is London Humphreys going to do? Is he going to compete for the Z spot? It's a 6'3", 200-pound freshman All-American or All SEC freshman type guy coming in from Vanderbilt. That's not a homegrown product, right? Hey, what's Michael Jackson the third going to be from USC? Also a very different Z type receiver, can kind of do it all. Lincoln Riley used him as a yak guy, gave him a lot of jets, gave him a lot of screens, gave him a lot of, hey, go run after the catch, go run after when we give you the ball, go make a play with your legs. Then you got this Colby Young guy coming in from Miami. He's really like B-Max type of mold. You know this better than anybody, Aaron. Brian McClendon has a type. Brian McClendon loves 6'3", 200 plus.
We all
look
do.
at everybody who's ever played for him, but I mean, extremely him. This is a different example. Look at the guys that played for him during his first time at Georgia. You're talking about Chris Durham's. You're talking about Massaquoi. Before we even get into the A.J. Green discussions, Malcolm Mitchell's, Chris Conley's, all these guys are 6'3" plus. All these dudes were long. All right. This is the type of player that BMAC wants and needs and like wants to develop. Those are 5 names, Aaron, that are all transfer additions because they don't really have any more homegrown talents. You look at the roster right now and it's like, hey, Dylan Bell is really good. Great job there. Is Anthony Evans going to be good? We'll see.
I hear a lot of him. I hear a lot of excitement about him.
I do. I hear a lot of great things, but hey, that's 2 guys. And hey, will Tyler Williams develop into something? We're talking about 3 or 4 years of a track record of recruiting on the trail at this position that just has not bared fruit, and they have gone to the portal, and that's fine. And Kirby has always talked about, hey, that's what we're going to use the portal for. We're going to use it as Band-Aid solutions, not core identity traits. But man, like how many more times can we go into this and not necessarily, I'm not saying they've struck out on any of these guys, but they don't have the Jamison Williams like success story. We brought this fourth, number 4 receiver from Ohio State and made him a first-round draft pick. Georgia doesn't have that right now on the track record in the portal. Maybe it develops this year, but that's what they're banking on at that.
Well, I think they're hoping. I think the problem, Brooks, for the past 3-4 years is this offense has been built around the tight end position. I mean, look at that's what's been built around. It's been around like, okay, 12 personnel, 13 personnel. How do we get Brock matched up? How do we use that chess piece? Even a couple of years ago, it was not only Brock, but it was the running backs. How do we move like a guy like James Cook around and get him matched up? Like, they were all these unique pieces, which made it really difficult for defenses, but kind of put the importance of the receiver in the background. It was like, okay, guys, we can run the football. We can throw it to our tight ends matched up against linebackers and safeties. We can get our running back involved in the pass game, and then we're going to play great defense. We don't need the explosive receiver down the field because that's not who we are as an identity as a football team. And I think now the defense will still be great, but the SEC is going to be better. You have to kind of adapt a little bit more. And I think you have now the quarterback that can be more explosive if he gets what we talked about earlier, some more of that confidence built into him.
The 11-12 discussion, I'm with you in 2020 and in 2021 and a little bit in 2022. But Darnell's hurt a little bit during times of that. And last year, like I have the data. I actually got it recently because I made the same comments like, hey, you're no longer a 12 team. And I got texts was like, hey, buddy, we weren't a 12 team last year. We were in 11 personnel 72% of the time. Yeah. Like,
They've been
dependent upon the receivers. Though.
I mean, that's still the main part. Like I don't care what personnel group you're in. It could be 11, it could be 12, it could be 13. And for those that are listening, that 11 personnel is 1 tight end, 3 receivers. 12 is one running back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. 13 is 3 tight ends. I don't care what personnel group you're in. The offense still, the importance was how do we get Brock involved? How do we get Brock his touches? So the offense ran through him, where you're not going to get rid of, because I think they have some talent at the tight end position. Like, I think Lawson's going to be pretty darn good. We've seen Oscar play really good. Pierce had a nice catch in the bowl game. Like, they will get into those personnel groups, but I think more 11 where the emphasis is not on involving the tight end, but involving the receivers is where you see this offense hopefully take that next step this year, I would think.
Yeah, it's an 11 with no longer an emphasis on the tight end. You're correct. Personnel packagings have not changed. The ideology of the offense definitely has, because you've now lost the greatest tight end in the history of the sport. I think we can argue. I mean, I think there's a strong case for that. So yeah, that I think that goes without being said. But from a personnel packaging and formational standpoint, I don't think they changed that much from what are they in?
I want to get more SEC big picture here with you. Obviously, we hinted on it a little bit ago, but everyone knows it's a new era, man. Texas, Oklahoma jump into the SEC. You brought it up. No divisions, no more East and West. It is just hey, go out there, play, try to go out there and find a way to get to Atlanta. Top 2 teams record wise will meet with essentially a bye in the playoffs on the line. Some of the contenders that jump to my mind, obviously Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama is going to be there, LSU. I'll ask you this first question, then we'll get to the big boys. Are we missing Tennessee and Missouri on this one? I'm a little bit more high on Tennessee than T-Bob is. T-Bob's loving Missouri. He thinks Missouri football is back, and they're going to be, grooving for the next few years. Where are you with those two kind of next tier ones?
See, I like Mizzou. Now I know they lost. They're going to lose a bunch defensively, but they've done a good job of not only recruiting. Right, Williams Nwaneri is going to probably start for them, I would imagine, as a true freshman this year, 5-star defensive end. But they've also done a good job in the portal. Right, I mean, Darius Smith didn't pan out at Georgia. He might at Mizzou. Like he might pan out. He's 6'6", 230 pounds, and he's an avatar. Like he ran sub 50 seconds in the 400 in high school in South Georgia. Like he's a freak. So they have a bunch of really, really talented football players, and most of the offense stayed intact. Obviously Brady Cook comes back. Luther Burden's still there. I think Theo Weiss is returning. I don't know the full extent of all those things. So they have a full weaponry and continuity there. But I think the main loss, like I said, is they lost their defensive coordinator in conference. That's always a big hit. So I'm bullish on Mizzou, but like my thing is, and I made the comments about this when an unnamed booster gave $62 million to Eli Drinkowitz. Guys, Eli Drinkowitz was 6-7, 6-7, 7-5, 11-2. 11-2 is the outlier there, not the other ones. So can he repeat upon the success? I'm a believer. Like, hey, do it twice and then I will confirm you. I'm not out here confirming this yet. Tennessee confirmed to me that they can still be a double-digit win team with mediocre quarterback play with this system under Heupel. That is something I didn't think was going to be plausible. Like when we talked about Heupel and the hire coming from UCF into the conference, everybody starts talking about, oh, will this gimmick and will this trickeration work in terms of this spread offense and this fast pace and all this outside the numbers stuff. And everybody focused on the passing attack. Guys, this is a football program that's been, I think, top 3 in rushing in this conference for 2 straight years under Heupel. I think it's confirmed they're going to be able to run the football. And if you can run the football in this conference, you can win football games. So am I of the belief that they're in this upper tier? I don't necessarily know. We talked about it on our show, Aaron. I think there's 4 tiers of college football teams. There's the annual national title contenders. We wake up every August and we're like, hey, that team's going to be in the mix late. There's that group, right? And then there's tier 2, which is you can reasonably wrap your mind around them winning a national title, right? Ole Miss fits in this category this year. I think Missouri floats in this category this year, right? Maybe. You can make arguments about it, all right? So and then there's tier 3, which I call the Cam Newton tier, which is, hey, you're going to have to buy the best player in college football, which is available nowadays. And that guy's going to have to be a superhuman. And maybe, despite the fact that you don't have another NFL player on the entire roster like Auburn did that year, you can win a national title. Maybe that's possible for you. And then there's tier 4, which is no shot. I think when we talk about like who are the annual national title contenders right now in this conference, I only really can safely bring you 2 names, and that's Georgia and Texas, just because there's so many questions right now about what Alabama's got going on. So I would float Alabama into that tier 2 where Ole Miss sits, where Missouri sits, where like when Florida gets it right, Florida can definitely win a national title. We're not out here marking that off for the rest of eternity. And I think LSU firmly sits in this right now where it's like, LSU might be able to win a title, but in terms of guaranteed annual contenders, I think right now it's Alabama and it's Texas.
Where's Oklahoma in the equation? Where's Oklahoma?
Oklahoma's a firm tier 2 team for me. Like they were a double-digit win team in the Big 12 last year with a whole bunch of questions year 2 of Venables. And I saw a bunch of turnaround in the defensive performances because he got his hands out of that room and actually hired a coordinator. So that was a solid decision from him from a CEO perspective. I need to stop worrying about the defense. I need to start worrying about my entire program, and the defense will improve thusly.
I want to get to that discussion real quick, but before we jump into that, just saying on the SEC real quick, you brought up Alabama, not in that that true contending team right now, Georgia, Texas, which is I'm of that belief. I think Alabama's a 9-3 football team next season, 10-2 at best. I said that this year, and they were a playoff team. So maybe I'm just dead ass wrong about Bama. But is it over? Is there enough left, and is there enough juice to keep them contenders for the next decade?
I'll tell you what, man, I don't like the idea of Kalen DeBoer being his own coordinator. Like, the history of this is it's not great at all, Aaron. Like, name me the head football coach who calls his own plays that wins national titles. I will wait. I will wait until you dig that name up. The last name to do it is Jimbo Fisher, and he had about 20 NFL football players on the field at Florida State when he did so. We saw what he ran it into the ground at Texas A&M, trying to be his own play caller. We see what happens with Billy Napier at Florida, trying to be his own play caller. We've seen what happened, like RIP. Mike Leach was his own play caller, and everybody loved it, but there was so many holes there. Lincoln Riley is his own play caller, but there's so many holes in that program that would just remove them from guaranteed national title.
But then is Ole Miss out of the equation then with Lane?
Hey, like, they're finally in it. They have a chance to win one. But if they slip up and they fall, it will not be because of their offense. It will be because of something that was overlooked or oversighted or just didn't get paid attention to because, hey, like we just got done watching the Super Bowl where the damn head coach who calls his own plays didn't know the overtime rules. Why? Because he was probably a little too consumed in calling his own plays. So, like, these are areas of oversight that we just pass by when we're so inundated with the 3rd and 4. Are we going to get into trips bunch, and how are we going to get our best receiver open? Like, yeah, you forgot to manage your timeouts because of such, or yeah, you ran 10 guys out onto the punt team because of such, or yeah, you gave up an explosive on the defensive side of the football because you busted a coverage and weren't paying attention to call a timeout. These are things that happen when you call your own plays. Nick Saban did not call his own plays. Kirby Smart does not call his own plays. Ryan Day just hired a head coach to come do it for him because he's finally over missing these things, right? Finally over not being wholly sound as a football program.
I'm with it, man. It's always been hard to do both. I think it's going to be, obviously, even nowadays, even harder with all the responsibilities of a head coach. So it will be interesting if he brings someone in or not. But just to compare the two, because we've had this debate for a couple weeks now, and this was before, obviously, the move of Grubb going back to Seattle to go be the OC of the Seahawks. But comparing, like, it's tier 1 Georgia, and Georgia's kind of the top of the mountain there. You're just focusing on the SEC as a whole here. Then it was like the debate of, okay, is it Texas coming in with Sark and success, or is it still Alabama and all that talent with Kalen DeBoer coming from Washington? Does it not concern you that DeBoer won in Washington over Texas, a Texas team that has probably more talent than what Washington had? And beat him 2 years in a row. It's beat him 2 years in a row.
There is zero doubt in my mind about Kalen DeBoer, the football coach. I mean, I think that has been proven. Like, he has beaten football teams over and over again that were more talented than him. He beat Oregon twice this year. I don't think there's any question that Oregon was a more talented football team than him. He beat Texas this year. I don't think there was any doubt that Texas was the more talented football team. So is this guy a good football coach? They hired the best football coach. The question in this conference has always been, can you recruit? And, like, even though he wanted a rate that he did and recruited at a top 50 level at Washington. Like, I don't care how good of a football coach you are. The history of this conference says you kind of have to recruit really, really well. Like, you got to go out and do it. Like, I think the threshold of this we just saw was Michigan. Michigan has not recruited inside the top 7, I think, since Jim Harbaugh was there. I don't think he ever cracked like a top 5 roster or a top 3 roster. But there is no doubt in my mind that Michigan coached circles around really great football teams for a large portion of this season on their way to a national title. So is he a great football coach? Yes. Can he overcome talent discrepancies? Yeah, he's got a history of doing that. But let's not bank on that. Let's bank on, like, hey, we're Alabama. We have one of the best 5-hour recruiting radiuses in the sport. Like, you draw a 5-hour radius around the Tuscaloosa, Alabama, you can get everywhere. You can get to Mobile. You can get to Louisiana. You can get to all of Mississippi. Or you can get to Atlanta. You can get up to Memphis. Like, you have the proximity to talent, there is no doubt about it. My question with the hire has always been like everybody else, and it's a cookie cutter answer. How was he going to recruit? I know he's a great football coach. The history of this conference says you have to recruit in the top 7 or top 5.
It's a lot easier to recruit to Tuscaloosa, as you just talked about, than it is to recruit to Washington. Completely different. So I don't want to just be like, oh, he hasn't had this top 20, top 25 class, so he can't do it. Well, he hasn't had really the resources or even the time at Washington to build the reputation to be able to do it. He's at a lot easier place, as you alluded to recruit top-tier talent. They got the facilities. They got the buy-in. I think they're working on the NIL piece a little bit. They took for granted because of Nick Saban. That's kind of the next piece of the puzzle that has to get plugged in for the Alabama and Kalen DeBoer to keep that train moving. All right, we're going to take a quick break, bring in our sponsors from DraftKings on the other side, talk a little Deion, Colorado in year 2 right after this.
Get in on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Check this out, guys. If you're a new customer, use the promo code TBOB, TBOB. You deposit $5 or more, you get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000, which if you lose, you'll get that money back in bonus bets, okay? So, for me, South Louisiana, I'm a massive Pelicans fan. The birds are hot right now. I'm playing props. I'm betting lines. But the point is, I'm supporting the birds. Like, you bet however you see fit. Your favorite NBA team, your favorite trends. It's all there for you. The place to play is at the DraftKings Sportsbook. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TBOB, TBOB. And new customers get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBOB. The crown is yours.
Oh, that beautiful face. Man, I just keep envisioning him with your haircut, and
I was about to
he
say,
would look phenomenal.
Murray, when y'all do this, if he ever, stops being a coward and mans up to his own bets, when y'all do this, y'all can't send him to no Joe Schmo barber. You got to send him to one of them Instagram barbers that puts like the lights out and breaks out the straight razor, douses him down with alcohol swab.
He wears the black rubber gloves.
Oh yeah. He pops it and like I'm saying, he's got to be on Instagram. Like, he's got to be one of these guys. I know he's close to New Orleans. I guarantee you there is some absolute skilled barbers out there. I want Mans to come out looking like a totally different human. I want Mans to come out looking like he just spent 10 years somewhere else.
Have you seen a picture of T-Bob with a buzz cut and shaved cheeks? Whew.
No, I'm unfamiliar with T-Bob's game other than the I don't know, the lumberjack, I guess we're calling that. That's the big old lumberjack. Yeah. And he can party. That's all I know about him. That's about it.
All right, we appreciate Brooks Austin joining us right now for the show, taking over from my boy T. Before we let you go, Deion, year 2, great article in The Athletic, kind of breaking down position by position, even the coaching staff, what's returned, what have they done in the portal, what are the pieces that have come back this season. Moving to an easier conference, I think we can all agree the Pac-12 exceeded all expectations this year. 4 wins, hot start, very, very, very fast drop off when they started playing some of the bigger boys there out west. You move to kind of that next tier below conference, behind, I don't know, I guess you put them in the same categories, the ACC somewhat there in the Big 12. Where do you anticipate? Do you like his? I mean, first off, do you like Deion? And do you think what he can do can see massive improvements in year 2?
As someone who talks college football content, I love Deion. But you forgot the biggest addition. They brought back the prime cleats and the prime shoes. You forgot that in the additions during the offseason. Also, Shadur went out there and did some Fashion Nova stuff out there in Paris. So you forgot all the good stuff during the offseason. But here's my thing about this. I'm a fan of consistency as long as you have a plan and you execute it consistently, and you don't waver from it. I'm normally good as long as I can quantify it. And he's been very consistent. It's been very obvious. We're turning over the roster, and we're going to turn over the roster that we turned over. I think that's been the underreported part of this. He has been taking stabs at the portal, but not every single stab has been a hit. He has been siphoning through a lot of these players as well. Not a lot, but a substantial portion of these players. And that's fine. We're trying to get better players into a program that did not have good ones. I understand that principle. Here's my question. When we're constantly bringing in new bodies and we're constantly bringing in new faces and we're constantly changing the identity of our roster, then we're probably going to be dependent upon coaching a lot more than other programs, because we don't depend on continuity around here. It's not familiarity. You don't know the system because you've been here a long time. You know the system because the coach implemented it really, really well. And that would be great. That's fine. As long as we have consistency and we don't have tremendous amount of turnover on the coaching staff, which, as you alluded to, is not exactly the case. They've had pretty consistent turnover on the coaching staff as well. So we have all of these changing body parts and all these changing identities. And I don't know the caliber of football coach that Deion is. I know the caliber of CEO. I know the caliber of marketer. I know the caliber of motivator that he is. I don't know, because I don't have a background of it. Like, hey, how good of an X's and O's coach is Deion Sanders when all of the things around him are changing? Can he walk into the room and say, hey, I know the OC I just got rid of, demoted, and brought in a new one. Hey, it's all good. I'm going to take over the room today and implement these concepts. I'm not saying you have to be able to do that. I'm just saying it would be really, really a lot easier to just depend upon consistency somewhere. There's no consistency anywhere. You talked about going into an easier conference from a top-end perspective, but the Big 12 is historically rock fighting one another every single week. Like, they are taking each other into the alley and just figuring out who's the better 7-5 football team today. That's what they do. And if I look at the schedule, I see 3 guaranteed wins, and I don't feel great about some of them. North Dakota State, I hope you get that one, Deion.
You better get that one.
Colorado State, you better get that one again. Cincy later in the year, based off what Cincy did year 1 in the Big 12, you better get that one. And then the rest of the schedule, to a man right now, Aaron Murray, is Colorado guaranteed to beat Nebraska? Is Colorado guaranteed to beat Baylor? Baylor had a bad year last year, but Dave Aranda ain't no slappy. At UCF, is that a guaranteed win in Gus Malzahn year 2? K-State, Arizona, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. I got 9. Flip a coin. Are y'all?
Well, and that's it. I mean, we say it's like the next tier down, but like they're all on the same level, though. Like they're all like they're all the same. It is going to be most likely a very competitive season if you're a Big 12 fan. You may not get the love, you may not get the primetime games that the Big 10 gets, that the SEC gets, but you're going to get really good football because you are very similar with the makeup of coach. You're very similar with the makeup of the student athlete. They are the athlete on the roster that, like we could say all we want. Like Colorado returned Shadur, who could be a first rounder. They returned maybe the best athlete in Travis in the country. They've improved the offensive line. They have all these skill guys, but are they truly that much more skilled than these other rosters? I wouldn't go out there and say like it's an SEC roster. I wouldn't say it's a Big 10 elite roster. It's a really good Big 12 roster, but a really good Big 12 roster could still be a 6-6, 7-5 team like you alluded. So they will be better than they were last year. I will give them that. I will be shocked if they're not a bowl team.
It's a really good Big 12 roster that is comprised of really good Big 12 players that they've taken off of other Big 12 rosters. I think I got like 5 guys from Houston. You know what I mean? Like they have gone through and kind of siphoned through all of the mid majors and all of the really good other non-Big 10 and SEC teams, and they've kind of grabbed players off. Will Shepherd is a prime example of this from Vanderbilt, right? Like that's a great receiver. He was an NFL caliber receiver. He's now at Colorado. Well, he's got 6 months to figure it out really quickly. Okay. And that's fine. He's a great football player. He might be able to do so. But yeah, it's an interesting strategy.
He's a Vanderbilt kid. He'll be fine.
He's smart. Yeah.
Well, you also you amass so much talent where you feel like you can do less with more. I mean, that's what we did for so long. That's what Alabama did for so long. You have so much more talent. You don't have to make it complex. You can just kind of line up and just play football. And I think Deion's kind of getting to the point already in year 2, which is a little bit scary that like, hey, I got the dudes and I got my son at quarterback. That's all I need. Watch me go out there, and if he has protection, we're going to be just fine.
I just know the back end of this slate.
Oh yeah.
I mean, oh my God, you're signing up for fist fights week in and week out. Listen to that. I don't know what Arizona's going to be.
What does he need to get to, in your opinion? Year 2,
get your son into the first round. That's the goal. Get your son into the first round. Get Shiloh drafted as well. Have a great time with Travis Hunter, who he calls his nephew. Get everybody into the first round, and then figure out what the coaching career of Prime looks like. That it's been Aaron. There is no long-term plan at Colorado. There has been
No, I
24
agree.
month
But like for a
plan.
Colorado
You're
fan,
like,
what should a Colorado fan deem as successful? Clint Moses says 5 or 6 wins. I would say
dude,
6 or 7.
you've had your success if you're a Colorado football player or fan. You did the whole hire was to make you like have notoriety in the world of college football. You got that year one when Big Noon Kickoff spent 7 weeks in a row at your place, when College Football Game Day came to you. Like the whole goal of hiring Deion has already been accomplished. Whether or not you are a 9-win
You got to
football
translate
program,
that into wins. You got to translate that into wins. So hype got
yeah,
you year
over
one.
four
Now
over
it's
4
wins.
years. You can't, as a Colorado football fan, I don't believe it is reasonable for you to believe you can be 0-12 in 2021 and then in 2024 to be competing for a national title or to have won 10 games.
I'm
Like
not saying that's
outrageous.
I'm saying bowl. I think bowl is,
bowl. Yes,
reasonable
yes.
expectations.
6
That's all I'm
wins.
saying.
6 wins.
7
Easy.
wins.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You get to a bowl, you're happy. That is a goal. But if you're a Colorado football fan out here thinking you about to win 10 games, hold on, Bubba. Let's easy.
That's like Utah in that conference. All right. Oh, we've spent taking too much of your time. That is Brooks Austin, the film guy. Make sure you go follow him. Has a great YouTube channel. He does shows Monday, Tuesday, Thursday in the offseason as well. Go check him out. Really, really good stuff. And then on the socials as well. I'm guessing at the film guy and all of the handles, or Brooks.
It's at Brooks Austin BA.
That's
but hey,
part.
we got to talk about something before we leave. April, dog, you needed. I want to let the whole
world know if we're ready to tease it out yet or not. I don't know if you want to tease it out yet or not.
We got merging fan bases. So when you drop that we're going to do something in April on here on Snaps, guess who gets messaged really, really quickly?
Where did I
that
drop
you already
that?
circled a date.
Where does that drop that?
Hey, remember the takes that come out on the microphone. That's all I'm saying, dog. So I thought it was funny that we had
previous show.
We had a temporary date set for February. And then on a previous show of Snaps, I get sent a clip of a former NFL football player, the all-time leading passer in the SEC, telling his audience base that he needs 2 months to prepare and train for a big fat kid that can throw a ball. You need 2 months to train for what?
You have to understand, Brooks. You have nothing to lose. You have 0 to lose. You could go out there and suck and no one's going to care. If I go out there and I look like crap, that's a problem. So I do need the 2 months to make sure that I, got a little juice left in that wing.
Get you 2 months, baby. We'll see you.
I'm gonna think we get a workout in. I'm gonna go play fetch with the dogs, loosen up. Go get a workout in right now.
You name dropped on me in Miami who you were playing catch with, and I don't even got to expose you right now. But you was out here playing catch with former MLB All-Stars.
I was with Lorenzo Carter the other day, doing something for ESP, and he had an NFL football, and I was throwing it. And I was like, I need to tell Brooks we ain't throwing an NFL football when we're doing this throw off.
What you mean?
No, we're throwing the college football. We're throwing the college football.
Buddy, the more and more we talk about this, the more and more I'm already mentally marking it as a dub. Just already. No NFL ball. What you talking
hustling him. All right. Well, that's another edition of Snaps. Appreciate everyone jumping in live. We'll be back with hopefully T-Bob on Thursday if he's not if he's still alive there in Mardi Gras in New Orleans. I'll be back Thursday. We'll have some content coming out tomorrow as always. Like, subscribe, go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Volume Snaps. And we will see you live on Thursday. Have a great one, everyone.